Hey guys, it's Morgan coming to you with another tech video. Today we are putting the top end in Eileen, our lovely 2021 KTM 125 XC. It's got just barely under 40 hours. I think it's 39.5, and I'm racing it this coming weekend at the Weeby Hair Scramble in Nadarita, and so I want everything to be fresh. And I just want to show you guys what top end looks like on a 125 after 40 hours of me beating pretty hard on it. I'm not a professional rider by any means, but I go pretty good on it, and I definitely ring it out a lot. You guys mentioned that a bunch. So, so yeah, let's take this thing apart and let's get in there and take a look. Alright, so the next thing I got to do here is drain the coolant. And normally I just drain it out into a pan and dispose of it appropriately. But I'm running Evans in this, and since it's only got 40 hours on it, I really want to save that Evans. And it should be totally fine because it's only got 40 hours. And yeah, so I've got a partially empty bottle of Evans. So now I'm going to drain what's in the motor into here, save it, and then I'm going to pour it back in. Unless it looks weird, but it should be just fine. And it might be hard to see from over there, but right there is the drain. You can find the drain bolt on any water pump by looking for the bolt that has the copper washer on it. That's always the drain. So it's going to leak a little bit here as I pull it out. But then, hopefully, we can do our best once it really comes out here. There we go. We're obviously going to lose some, but this stuff looks brand new, so I'm happy that I'm saving it to put it back in. If it were any other coolant, I wouldn't worry about it, because first of all, this is more expensive. Also, this lasts a lot longer than normal coolant, so. Next thing we gotta do is we're gonna take the spark plug cap off and this top hose off, get that out of the way, then we'll take the head off. Alright, on KTMs, actually most bikes, but on KTMs for sure, the clamps on the hoses are 6mm heads, which is really nice because dealing with a screwdriver, which it also has that method of loosening, is just a pain. So I like to use the 6mm, and I like to just get this hose completely out of the way. So now we need a 10mm socket, break that head loose, and this would be good too. I've not actually taken an RK Tech head off after I've run it yet, so we'll get to see what the burn looks like. All right, we got all the bolts out of it. Loosen her up here. Let's take a look. All right, that looks really good. I am actually really happy with that. Like I said, I'm running this thing super rich for what I would normally consider correct, and it makes so much stinking power. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way that looks. It's definitely on the rich side, but I'd rather have that than lean any day, especially with how it runs. So definitely going to clean that up really good before we reinstall it. But yeah, I'm happy with that. Now let's take a look at the cylinder. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that looks good. Let's take a down in there. Lots of crosshatch still in there. See, I cleaned this bike, but there was so much mud from the last ride that anyway, there's still some on there. So next thing, guys, we're going to take this power valve cover off, unhook the power valve, and then we'll undo the base nuts and be good to go. So I think that is a 125 Torx. Those were not that tight, and I have not taken this one off. So that's from the factory. I guess that's one more thing we ought to check when we get new bikes. Yeah, that was surprisingly easy to break those loose. Also, guys, I can't say enough about how much I like this tray style thing. I got these off the Matco truck, but they're not Matco. They're those things. Black tin comp tray. Anyway, they're awesome for doing really any work, especially motor work, because you can kind of organize your bolts. We got the head bolts there, putting our power valve stuff here. There we go. Definitely spoogey in there. I'm running this bike at 32 to 1. I was running, yeah, I know. So anyway, I'm running this bike at 32 to 1. So there's gonna be some extra blech everywhere, but you know, whatever. I'm okay with that. All right, so we take our 45-degree needle nose, and we're gonna try to get that clip to come off. It's not the easiest thing in the world to get a hold of, just so you know, but keep your hands over it, because what you don't want is for that thing to go in that hole. That's bad. It's not the end of the world, but it does make your life crappy for a little bit. So, always check to make sure that's moving like it should. Moves really good. All right, I'm gonna take the other cover off the other side. There's nothing special under there, other than just being able to look at the other side of the power valve, but there's nothing you got to unhook. So I'm gonna take that off, come back and take these base nuts off. Okay, so guys, I was gonna try to do this without taking this off, but it's just not gonna work. It's too tight. I could probably do it and force it, but I'm not gonna do that. So let's go ahead and remove that hose. Now it's gonna come off a lot easier. Try to get in here, support that thing as we come up so it doesn't flop around too much. All right. That looks really good. We'll come over here to the bench and take a look at this cylinder. All right, there's our cylinder. Everything looks really good. I'm gonna get these O-rings out. Rag. Clean that up. And I'm telling you guys, it's hard to see on the camera, I know, but this thing looks amazing. I mean, it should, right? It only has 40 hours on it. It shouldn't look bad. I haven't had any failures or anything like that, but it does make me happy to see it looking so good. So I'm going to run a ball home through it and make sure that everything looks really nice and clean. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I got new gaskets, obviously, so I'll make this thing clean. I'm not going to take the power valve apart this time, so this video is not going to include like a full power valve installation, because like I said, it only has 40 hours. There's really no need to do it. It's moving great. It's clean. It's not all carboned up. So the next time I do it, we'll take this power valve apart. So make sure you subscribe, guys, because we'll be doing lots of work on this 125 over the years. Because I really like it a lot, and I think I'm going to keep it for a long time. So, all right, go and get this cleaned up, and then we'll come right back. You guys might notice real quickly a big difference in these pistons. This one is the stock one. This is the new Vertex. The big difference is this one has 2 rings and this one is 1. This piston is considered a race piston. So the thing about single ring pistons is they don't last as long as far as like holding up to compression and all that, but they rev quicker, therefore hopefully making not necessarily making more power, but making power quicker. So when you snap the throttle, it's going to rev up a little bit faster. I'm really excited about putting this in there. My kid's bike has a single ring piston and it rips, so I gotta wait for the cylinder to be done to check the ring end gap, so that'll be last here. But what we're gonna do now in preparation is we're gonna take our pin and we're gonna put it in the right side, because I'm gonna be working on the left side of the motor. And we're gonna get that to slide in. We're gonna go all the way in past the groove for the circlip. Then we're gonna take a circlip, drop it into the groove, and then what I like to do is I take a thumb, put it over that, and I come in here. We're using the pin to hold it from going back in there. Get that in there. And there we go. Circlip installed. You want to take a good look, make sure it's good. One thing to know, guys, is that you always want the circlip gap, like there we go, that gap, you always want that gap either down or up, because theoretically if it was sideways like this and the piston's moving this way, it could compress and come out of its hole and obviously do giant major damage. So anyway, that's good. Now we can take our pin out. And we're going to go install this. I'm going to check the ring end gap. Trust me, I'm going to do it. Once that's out, I can use this piston to help line it up. But I just want to get this done while we're waiting for the other one to cook. So first, what you do before you go removing any little tiny pieces is you take a nice rag or towel or whatever and put it in there. That keeps all the circlips from wanting to jump down into the bottom end, causing you a ton of pain and sorrow. So come in here, pop that clip out. Now we're going to slide that pin out. There we go. Top end bearing looks really good. You always want to look at that, even though we're going to replace it. You want to take a good look at it, make sure nothing's weird. Also, you really want to look at the small end of the rod up here, make sure there's no scoring, no weirdness there. There's not, which is good. And let's take a look at our piston. This is the exhaust side, intake side. Everything looks good. Definitely probably banging around a little bit of slap in there. Just partially probably because of how hard I got a beat on this thing, but we're not really getting any blow by, which is nice. No big black marks coming down here. Really happy about that. So yeah, I'm excited. The thing looks good. So now I'm gonna go grab the other piston. I like to take a little bit of assembly lube, put it on the new top end bearing, slide that in like that. Take our wrist pin. Don't really need to put lube on it because it's already on the bearing. So then we're going to take this, come down, and get that going there. And you kind of just wiggle it around till it finds its home. Push that in tight. I'm going to take our new circlip, tuck it in there, hold our thumb over it, and just slowly work that in. These 125 clips are way easier than the 300s. That's why I'm not struggling like so many people and myself do with those clips. All right, so that is ready to rock and roll. All right, we're using an Athena gasket kit, partially because they were the only ones that I could confirm fit the bike, but also they're really good gaskets. It's for a 150 and a 125, so there's probably some doubled up stuff in here. But the base gaskets must all be the same, so that's good. So here's the thing. You guys are gonna, if you're watching this, that means you spend some time on the internets, which means you spend some time on YouTube, which means you probably have heard lots of people talking all about some X dimension, Z dimension, Q, R, L, anyway. Those are all important, and I'm not trying to discount that. But the reality is, most humans riding these bikes are not going to be able to tell the difference between any of these gaskets the way they feel, because they're basically, there's thick ones, there's thin ones, and ones in between. So you're supposed to put it on there, check all this and what. Anyway, I'm sure Kelsey from RK Tech is going to yell at me for not doing a more diligent job, but the reality is, I have put these things together with every gasket you can imagine in here, from the thinnest to the thickest, and I can't ever tell the difference. So, but I have learned, I have used the thinnest before, and I've actually been bitten by that because it blew out and leaked water, and I had to redo it. Just because it was so thin, and I'm guessing that the cases maybe weren't totally flat because it's a little bit older bike. So that's the thinnest one. We're going to check that. That's the thickest one, which is going to give us the least amount of compression, so we're going to check that. So now we're left with 3. And I'm just feeling them. I'm not measuring them. Yeah, anyway, whatever. So I'm going to go with the thinnest of these 3, which is this one. All right, we got our gasket. Can really only go on one way because the power valve bump out. Anyway, you can't really botch this. But you do want to be careful as you're going on. Make sure it goes down nice and smooth. I have seen these get torn if you do it with any haste. So we'll just kind of go nice and easy. Also, these little dowels can cause a bit of a problem if you're not careful. There you go. All right. So now we're prepped and ready, guys. We're just waiting on the cylinder. So I'm going to go make some more coffee, and we'll be right back. All right, guys. Got our cylinder back. Looks really good. Everything looks nice and shiny and happy and clean. Moving like it's supposed to. So now we're going to check our ring end gap. I'm going to put the top up. There's a little mark right there that goes up. And take our ring, take our old piston, use that to square it up. And we're going to check our end gap right there. And on this little guy, it's going to really, we're looking for about 6 or 8 thousandths, not that much. Let's make sure we got at least 8. 8 goes well. Now we can go put this on our piston. All right. So put our little mark, like I said, that goes up. And I'm gonna drop it in here. Make sure it lines up with the groove or the pin on the piston. Make sure the end gap lines up there. Now we're gonna grab our cylinder. I like to put a little assembly lube on the actual cylinder. Really, the best thing to use for that on the cylinder is 2-stroke oil. So put a little bit of 2-stroke oil, wipe it around. You don't have to go crazy. Then, because this is such a nice tiny little piston and everything, we can just use our hands, squeeze that together, slide her down, just like that. Super easy. Base nuts. Now tighten these guys down. No, I'm not using a torque wrench because, first of all, you have to do a bunch of calculations so you can put a torque wrench on a wrench, and it linked anyway, whatever. So, but you also don't need to on a 2-stroke. Just make sure it's nice and tight. We are going to crisscross it though, so we'll do this back right one, and then we're going to do the front left. Going to go grab the kicker, rotate her over a few times, make sure nothing's hanging up, so it's all good now. All right, so before we hook this up, we take our gasket I'm gonna get it in here. This is always a bit of a struggle. Oh, not bad that time. That was good. So sometimes these are a struggle to get down past that O-ring. This one went just fine. All right, so take this, push it on like that. And we take our clip, hold on to it very carefully. We don't drop it down in there. Slide it up through its little hole, which is kind of a tough thing sometimes. There you go. Clip it on there. Take our cover. KTMs really like to leak right around here. So what I like to do, we take a little bit of our 3-bond gasket maker, and we're gonna run a little bead all the way around that surface. And some of you guys might be, oh, you have to use that, bro. KTM now is putting gunk on this from the factory to try to keep these things from leaking. They're leaking brand new. So I'm gonna let this set up for a little bit, get nice and tacky, and then we'll install it. All right, also while we're waiting on that to cure, we'll go ahead and put our radiator hose back on. Now, vent hose back on. Oh, also guys, just so you know, this is a vent for the power valve. If you don't have a vent, it will build up pressure right in here because of all the moving parts and heat and all that stuff. So, got to make sure that's vented. All right, 3-bond is cured enough now. All right, guys, we've got the RK Tech head cleaned up. So you can see there is a little bit, it's still not perfect right in here. I usually use like a wire brush or something like that to kind of really get that clean. But with these milling marks, I don't want to do that. So I use some brake cleaner. I put it in the ultrasonic. I could go nuts and get it all off of there, but that doesn't matter. I'm changing this stuff every 40 hours, so no big deal. Maybe next time we'll do it and try to get that even cleaner. But all right, so got new O-rings in the head. And take our head, put it down. There we go. So our Athena kit comes with brand new crush washers. So we'll put those on these bolts and run them in. Again, no torque wrench, absolutely unnecessary on a 2-stroke cylinder head. We are going to crisscross them, but other than that, we're just going to tighten them down, get them nice and tight, and be good to go. All right, guys, got everything back together. I mean, the bolts aren't in all the plastics and all that. Obviously, the seat's not on it, but we got coolant in it. We got gas hooked up to it, and now we're going to hit the button and see what happens. Go ahead and hit the choke. Oh, yeah. Maybe you heard as I first fired it up, it's kind of burr, burr, burr. Well, that's because of that assembly lube and all that other stuff. Also, probably because the power valve was kind of a little bit hung open. I needed to kind of warm up and shake and then go back to its home. So it takes a little bit to burn all that stuff out of there, get everything loosened up. So there we go. Another thing I like to do, I've mentioned this in other videos, but I like to leave the radiator cap off so you can take a look at that. Make sure everything's moving like it should, so you know you don't go blow it up because maybe the water pump's not doing whatever. So yeah, really happy with how that turned out, guys. Make sure you subscribe because we'll be doing lots of ride videos on that. I'm racing it this weekend. I've got a new mount for my GoPro, so I am going to be filming during the race, and it should be really awesome. I'm excited. I'm going to be racing the 40A class in a hair scramble on this tiny little motorcycle, and I hope to do well. And if nothing else, we're going to give it everything we got. But also, I'll be able to check in and let you know what I think about the single ring versus the two ring. Like I said, they definitely don't hold up as long. You got to change them out a little more often. But sometimes you get away with just rings on those. So, yeah. Anyway, hope you guys like that. Hope you get out, spread the gospel with two wheels. And as always, you know what I'm going to say. I hope that what we're doing here at Highland Cycles is inspiring you guys to work on and get out and ride your dirt bikes!